Tonight we celebrate a KwaZulu-Natal-based award-winning filmmaker whose creative journey embodies how provincial investment in storytelling is transforming local talent into continental success. Lindani Mbense, born in Pietermaritzburg and raised in Mbali, is an award-winning documentary filmmaker and broadcaster. In July this year, he captured the Best Documentary Award at the Simon Mabunu Sabela KZN Film Awards, the province's highest film honor, hosted by the KwaZulu-Natal Tourism and Film Authority Films season. And we're going to be chatting to him, just looking at the prospects of what will take place, what will unfold in actual fact in the month that is to come. I know that November is a very busy month for Mr. Lindani, who joins us on the line this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to African Diaries.
Good evening, and thank you very much.
Let's just start off with that busy schedule in November. A lot is happening. I see you're traveling to Rwanda, and then you're going to Ghana. Then you are, coming back to South Africa. What's happening in the month of November?
Yeah, I think it's been a long time coming. I think this has been a very blessed year for me. As you mentioned, that in July I picked up the Best Documentary Feature Film for the documentary called Dr. Ngema, This Is My Story. And so since then it's just been, I don't know if I must say uphill or downhill, depending which one is better. So in the month of November, first of all, I've been selected to screen at the Umlazi International Film Festival. That will be my screening will be taking place on the 26th of November, and then as it finishes, then I need to be off to Rwanda in Kigali for the Mashakiri film awards, also film festival rather. Also there I've been selected, amongst other documentaries within the African continent. So we'll be showcasing there. And then thereafter, it's going to be off to Ghana, Accra. They'll be hosting their film festival, and also the documentary is also been selected to screen there. And also I think I'm not too sure as yet, they're still going to announce, but some of the documentaries will be up for nomination at their awards at the end of the film festival. So we'll just have to see with time if the Dr. Ngema documentary will be one of those. So yeah, it all started here in KZN with the KZN Tourism and Film Authority. And there's also just been a lot that I've learned in the journey, because I've already done just one screening with the Film Authority, and you just get to learn a lot, as to what actually happens in putting these things together and what makes them successful and what people really want to see and want to watch.
Lindani, what's really exciting is this interconnectivity that we're creating. It's almost like we're creating a network of brilliance across the continent. I mean, you think from Rwanda to Accra to Umlazi. This is quite the distance traveled. Talk to me about the nuance in experience. What are you anticipating? I know that you have found yourself in various contexts that are not just limited to South African experiences. And so I just want to gauge from you in terms of the continent connecting through film. Is that something that you are seeing successfully happen, or is it something that we still need to work on?
I think if I go back to the time of when we speak about the Simon Mabunu Sabela Film Awards, so their tagline for this year was African Storytellers, Champions of African Storytellers. And I think, already that tells you that we're not looking at a province, we're not looking at a country, but we are looking at a continent. So at some point, that intercontinental activity and exchange needs to happen. There's a lot that can be learned from South Africa. And as South Africans, as we also travel across the continent, there's also a lot for us to be learned. I'm really looking forward to going to Rwanda. I've never been to Rwanda. I want to see, what Rwanda brings, because I think as a storyteller, the more educated you are about anything, more especially in this case, our continent, the more educated you are about other writers, other producers, other directors, interchanging, expertise, just talking about the different challenges that we might have within the different countries, the different challenges we might have within the industry. I think at some point, the more we come together, speak and mix, one day the gel will become one perfect situation. Because traveling to Ghana, traveling to Rwanda, and also being involved in Umlazi, the more you gain from that, the easier it is. One day when I need an actor, if I make a movie one day from Rwanda, you've got access. Because I think that one of the biggest things is when you need intercontinental exchange, to be calling someone in Kigali when you actually don't know anyone, becomes very difficult. But once you get someone in each continent, someone in each country, then it just makes your life much easier. So I'm really looking forward to going to Rwanda. I'm really looking forward to going to Ghana, Accra. So I'm wanting, I think most importantly, I'm still young when it comes to this space, especially in documentaries. So I've still got a lot to learn, and I'm willing to learn, and I want to learn. So these travels, I think, will be a huge gain for me.
I think one thing that we ought to speak about is that you were a broadcaster, right? And you moved, in actual fact, your family at this end. And we'll get into that conversation in a short bit. I want to touch base on your thoughts and views on the development of film across the continent, right? We've always known that to an extent there was a lag between us and other continents in terms of production, cinematography, storylining, the authenticities of stories told. But now with awards that we are seeing with the film festivals, surely there is much authenticity that is being exposed and expressed. In your thoughts and your views, in your own experience, where are we as the continent in terms of telling our own stories authentically?
I think at some point, because we were so influenced, or it was so much easier to watch, an American movie on whatever channels we have access to. We really, as writers, as producers, as creatives, you start really buying into other stories. But when you look at it, a lot of stories that a lot of big movies, or even in theater that you see across the world, there's a lot of African aspect to it. A lot of American movies now are being shot across the African continent. And I'm talking big movies that are winning big awards across the world, and that have star-studded actors. A lot of filming is now happening within the continent. Every now and then we hear so-and-so was in Cape Town because they were shooting a movie there. So-and-so was at Kruger National Park because they were shooting a movie there. So it tells us that there is something here that is needed internationally. And I think once we become more confident about our stories, and I don't even think it's about confidence, it's just wanting and willing to do it. And I think over the past few years, African and South African writers have come to know that we've got these great stories to tell. Especially when I'll just relate, especially to my documentary, the Dr. Mogeni Ngema documentary. He became the best, second to none, when it came to theater, when it came to playwrights. And when he starts his documentary, he starts by saying that the youngest memory he has, a mother around a fire, and she used to tell him the greatest heroic stories about the Africans and his great grandparents. So those are the stories that he decided to tell. South Africa, Sarafina is a huge, great South African story, and where is it now? It's all over the world. It got awards all over the world. You look at the actors that came out of that, are big actors today in the country. Some of them have gone off to be overseas. I know that one of the actors in Sarafina, Colgate, he's now based abroad. You look at the John Carneys, they came from Sarafina. So we do have something, we just need to now open it. We've got an egg. We now need to open this egg and realize what's actually inside this egg. And then we'll be able to travel the world again with our movies and our storytelling. You even look at productions like The Lion King. Where does the whole idea come from? Who's the man behind all of that? And you look at other bigger productions around the world. I'm sure there's many other South Africans all over the world that we're not even aware of what they are doing. But I think we've really got something, and we just need the confidence. We just need to look into ourselves and have the confidence to just go out there and say, this is our story and we're here to tell it, and the world will listen.
The voice there of Lindani Mbense joining us, award-winning filmmaker and broadcaster, and he is the crooner behind the very celebrated Dr. Bongeni Ngema, This Is My Story. And so we're just looking firstly at his accolades and where these are taking him across the continent, but also this interconnectivity that we're weaving as creatives throughout the continent. Let's go back to that family chat, Mr. Lindani. This is your home as well. SABC is your home. Tell me how
Yes.
broadcasting at the SABC, or perhaps just your entire trajectory in terms of broadcasting, how has this affected the way you produce films, how you script it, how you envision the story being told?
Well, I was at the SABC for a good 20 years. Broadcast is all I know. And I think sometimes ignorantly, you walk into workplaces, just deal with what you are there to do, what you've been educated to do, what you've learned, and what you hired to do, and you walk away. But when you get into an SABC, even if you just came there, for example, as an actor for one of the drama series, there's radio there all over you. There's news channels all over you. There's other actors all over you. There's just so much to learn, even the business side of things. So, when you get introduced to that kind of building and that kind of exposure, I think obviously it's important that, you learn a little bit of everything. And I think that's what I did. By the time I walked out of SABC, I was an on-air presenter, but by the time I walked out of there, I knew how to operate a camera. I knew how to report. I knew how to write. I knew what happens behind the scenes of some of these things. So when I stepped out, yes, I still had a lot to learn and still have a lot to learn, but at least you walk into a situation where you've got an idea, because there's nothing worse than walking into a situation without an idea. I'm reminded of a story where one of the camera gentlemen that I used to work with, they used to say when someone is new in the building, they used to say, can you go and get and fetch the bars, the bars that you usually see on the TV before, a movie starts back then,
Yeah.
as if it's a thing that you go and fetch, and so if you walk into a situation with no idea what is what, obviously you'll learn the hard way. But I think the important thing is that you need to learn. So I think that's what gave me a head start when I decided to go solo, when I decided to open a film production company and choose this line stream as my second stint in broadcast.
Absolutely. I love the example you made there about going to fetch that particular item. I see my technical producer is laughing. She's cracking. She has an understanding of what happens on those ends of the world.
Exactly.
She knows exactly what's going on that end of the world. Let's talk about the realities of COVID. Now, COVID challenged our ability to be creative, right? Outside the reality that we couldn't cluster as a collective, there was also nuances that we needed to change in the way we spoke to people, in the way we articulated ourselves, how people don't want to be sold to this present day and age. They want to relate. They want to feel like they are making the intentional decision to watch whatever it is that you're bringing out for them. How did this affect you in terms of piecing together this particular piece?
Wow, I think for me it was actually the biggest challenge. Other than the fact that I was doing my first full production, my first documentary. So the documentary that we're speaking about, the Dr. Ngema, This Is My Story, I actually began filming it in 2020. So after we had done some of the on-camera work, then we were hit by COVID. As a result of that, this documentary that we started in 2020 is only being released now in 2025. I think I sort of completed it in the beginning of this year. So, it put on so many more years. And I think for broadcast, we know that every minute is money. So, when a production is supposed to be a year and it becomes 3 years, you're talking not only three times a bigger financial backlog or back, but it can become four times more, five times more. And I think also when you get out of rhythm of anything that you're doing, because you go, you shoot this, and in mind you still have, okay, tomorrow I want to do this, and this is how I want to do it, and even the words are still fresh in your head, and you go and you just keep rolling and rolling and rolling until it ends. But when you're going to have a 2 year gap between anything that you're doing, whether it be in sports, whether it be in broadcast, whether it be in any industry, it really just really just throws you off track. But also, I think there was also a lot that we gained from it. We're sitting here now having this conversation, with
Yeah.
the kind of technology we have. And I think we all really had to get familiar with it because of COVID, because, there was no movement. So things had to continue to happen. And, even in the broadcast space, your space in particular, it's made things so much easier because, yes, you love an in-studio interview, but you know what? There's also a similar option, which is probably just as good depending where it is. And I think, with Channel Africa, it's even, you guys are probably even more advanced because, all the interviews that you do across the African continent, come in this form anyway. But yeah, I think for the ordinary citizen, the ordinary South African, we all know how to use Teams.
Mr. Lindani, we are losing you there. If you could just repeat what it is you were saying. As we try and get Mr. Lindani back on the line. If you have just joined us, that was the voice of Lindani Mbense, who is an award-winning filmmaker. And this particular award that is being celebrated at this very stage is that Best Documentary Award that he garnered at the Simone Mabunu Sabela KZN Film Awards. We know that he will be taking the documentary Dr. Mbongeni Ngema, This Is My Story, to quite a number of spaces. He kickstarts off in Rwanda at the Mashariki African Film Festival, that taking place between the 22nd and the 29th of October. And then he comes into Ghana space, and he goes and he heads over to their film festival that takes place between the 28th and the 30th of November. And then we end off in Umlazi, and we'll be looking at some of his work at the International Film Festival taking place there between the 27th and the 29th of November 2025. It is 11 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. For those who are about to say angel numbers, it's 23:11. Let me burst that bubble. Not my place to do so. Listen, let's continue this conversation with Mr. Lindani Mbense, who is an award-winning filmmaker, and he is here to talk to us about Dr. Mbongeni Ngema, This Is My Story. But what's really interesting is that we're tapping into his story as well. Lindani, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. Just ending off on that note there, I want to come back to your story. Right, we've seen what it is you're capable of with respect to being able to help people detail out their stories. What a prolific story being told there. But I want to get yours. What's next? What's on the table for Lindani Mbense?
So the documentary is supposed to will be a series. So subtitled "This Is My Story." This is my story for me is about South Africans or Africans telling us their story. I think too often, we fail to document certain situations. We fail to document certain people. And, with time, we lose that. Everything must be documented. There must be a picture of everything. There must be a writing of everything that happens within a country. So this is my story, is just trying to pick up wherever I'm trying to pick up and just play my part. So, I'm looking at doing more documentaries on more iconic South Africans. A lot of, I initially had a list of some of the iconic South Africans I'd wanted to document. One of them, and I still cry about it till this day, was Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who we've now lost. I think he had such a great South African story to tell. And it's not about digging into the politics, but who is he? Where did he grow up? How did he grow up? What influenced certain decisions within his life? Who is he as a father? Who is he as a husband? And those are the kind of things that these documentaries are about. Because I think just because I become a politician, people think, that's my life. But there's so much more about me than just that. So that's what I try and tap into and dig out. And I think, when people see the Dr. Mbogeni Ngema documentary, every time anyone sees it, they just think, geez, I didn't know this about him. Oh, I thought it was like this. Oh, I didn't know that this is what it was. So, it's all about that. This is my story, is about him telling his story the way he wants to tell it.
I think what's beautiful about your work is that you're making excellence tangible. I think more often than not, we see positions, we see glory, we see status, but we don't know the people behind the storyline. And so you're making it tangible for Africans to be able to say, listen, I too can thrive, because person X was ordinary like me. They had a story like mine. We're getting to know the nitty gritties behind the character. And I think that is such a beautiful piece of work to pursue, if anything. The very last question that I have for you this evening is for people aspiring to step into the world of filmmaking. It has become so tangible. People are recording films on their phones. Their smartphones have become the new one-stop shop for everything, from editing to sound to shooting, you name it, it's there. What would you say to a young lad, a young damsel who's looking to pursue this particular sphere? They're saying, all I've got right now is my cell phone, but I too want to tell stories that I think will matter one day.
Yeah, I think we cannot run away from technology. We cannot run away from time moving forward. Also, I think a story is a story, whether it's written. We know we've got caves where back in the time where people used to draw certain situations and certain things, we're able to tell what was happening in their time. So I think if we reflect to now, whether you're doing it on a phone, for me, I'm old school, so it's not ideal for myself, but we've got a story to tell. We've got a role to play. However you need to document what you need to document it. If it needs to be improved one day by someone else, so be it. Let's start writing. I think storytelling, I think, starts very deeply in writing, because I think when you write rather than doing anything else, there's so much more thought, because with every word that you're writing, it has to make sense in your head. There's a lot of thinking behind it. How many times, if someone is writing, do they scratch the sentence before because it doesn't make sense to the sentence that they are going to? So, let's write. Let's film. Let's document things. Let's get into it. It's such a huge space. The one thing that you can never be denied of, in whatever industry you want to get into, storytelling is yours. Your story is your story. What you want to tell about is what you want to tell about. I mean, look at this. We've got cartoons. To someone else, cartoons don't make any sense. We've got fiction stories. To someone else, that does not make sense. We've got science fiction. But someone has to and wants to listen to a certain thing. So I just think, let's not be shy. I think the biggest thing is we are shy of our stories. Dr. Ngema, in his documentary, he speaks proudly of the young boy he was growing up in rural Zululand, and look where he ended up. So it doesn't matter your background. In fact, I think some of the rural stories that we have, the stories that we were told by our grandparents, the stories that we have to tell about how the behaviors of a funny grandfather, every time we go for Christmas, because I don't think you need especially, you can be writing and documenting your own family from Christmas to Christmas, if that's the only time you ever see them. And with time, I always make reference to a family tree. You can't just get to the end of a family tree. You need to start somewhere. How do you go back? You have to go and research, just like in any kind of storytelling. So if you imagine that, you are creating a family tree, or a family tree of a continent, you've got a leaf to put on there. So what is your leaf going to be? How does your leaf align with So, I think it's a huge opportunity for a lot of youngsters. If I speak to youngsters within my space here in the province in KZN, I know that KZN Tourism and Film Authority has a lot of opportunities. Whether it's strategic sessions, whether it's showcasing and doing screenings and speaking to people who are within the profession, people that have the experience, whether it's bursaries. There's just so much happening. I'm sure there's so much happening in every province. We really need to start going there and engaging with those situations. If you would get a bursary now from, for example, a tourism authority, because you become their sort of brainchild and you become you're born out of their situation. There's so many more other things that you can get assistance with and move along and go all the way. So yeah, I think youngsters, there's so much opportunity in the film industry. And also, just lastly about it, there's so many opportunities within it. You can be a camera person, you can be a technical director, you can be a producer, you can be an actor, an actress. There's just so much for you. And there's a lot behind the scenes, including in post or pre or post productions also.
A whole world waiting to be unraveled is what I'm hearing, Mr. Lindani. Again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for sharing and celebrating African excellence with us. We wish you nothing but the best on those screenings. And of course, come back and tell us more when you do get more awards, because I do anticipate that that's your streak now. You're that guy who wins the awards. We love it for you. We love to see it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
The voice there of Lindani Mbense, who is an award-winning filmmaker, and he joins us this evening. Tonight, we were unpacking he's, I suppose, I want to say excursion, but that's not the right word. He's going to be taking a tour across the African continent, particularly being in Rwanda and in Accra, that is in Ghana, and then he comes back to South Africa, telling the story of Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. This is my story through his documentary series. 20 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. If you have just joined us, thank you so much for choosing us over the rest. We get into our next conversation in a short bit. Imagine if sound could paint pictures that you can tangibly experience.